Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudire.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu.
Nashtaprayeshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, titled The Opulence of the Absolute, and the verse number today on the 14th of May, 2022 is verse number 9. Very beautiful verse. We're going to discuss this. Machita Madgata Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Kathayantascha Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Tushyanti ramanti cha.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Any Prabhuji or Mataji?
Machita Madgata Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Kathayanta cha mam nityam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayantaha Parasparam.
Bodhayantas Parasparam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Anyone else would like to lead and we're going to follow? Beautiful verse spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Bodhayantas Parasparam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Machita Madgat Prana.
Machita Madgata Prana.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Bodhayanta Parasparam.
Kathayantas Mam Nitya.
Kathayantascha Mam Nityam.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Thank you very much. Word by word meaning. Machita.
Machita.
Their minds fully engaged in me.
Their minds fully engaged in me.
Madgata Prana.
Madgata Prana.
Their lives devoted to me.
Their lives devoted to me.
Bodhayanta.
Bodhayantaha.
Preaching. Parasparam,
Parasparam,
among themselves.
among themselves.
Kathayanta,
Kathayanta,
talking.
talking.
Cha, also.
Cha, also.
Mam, about me.
Mam, about me.
Nityam, perpetually.
Nityam, perpetually.
Tushyanti, become pleased.
Tushyanti, become pleased.
Cha, also.
Cha, also.
Ramanti,
Ramanti,
enjoy transcendental bliss.
enjoy transcendental bliss.
Cha, also.
Cha, also.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The thoughts of my pure devotees.
The thoughts of my pure devotees
Dwell in me.
dwell in me.
Their lives are fully devoted to my service.
Their lives are fully devoted to my service.
And they derive great satisfaction.
And they derive great satisfaction.
And bliss from always.
And bliss from always.
Enlightening one another.
Enlightening one another.
And conversing about me.
And conversing about me.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this purport?
Pure devotees whose characteristics are mentioned in here engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastime of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees.
In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they release the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature stage, they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can release the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them, there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else would like to read this page?
The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyotir effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Golok Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the water process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord. Just as a fish cannot live without water, in such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else would like to read this page?
The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees as stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12.13.18. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Avalam Yat Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized soul in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literature, just as a young boy and girl takes pleasure in association.
Let's all chant the pranam mantra together. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapadakamlam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shagana Lalita Sri Vishakhatam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Nilachal Nivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadra Jagannatha Namo. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha, where we take one of the top 108 verses from Bhagavad Gita and discuss. And as you attended the last session, last Saturday, we are into the 4 top essence verses of Bhagavad Gita, often called as Chaturshloki. 10.8 was discussed last time. That's the beginning of Chaturshloki. And today is the second verse of the Chaturshloki. Chaturshloki means the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The entire 700 verses are compact, fully integrated into these 4 verses. That means if you understand these 4 verses properly, then you have understood Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita comes with different rasas, different mellows, different moods. So that's why we have to take time to dwell on Bhagavad Gita again and again, hear from different devotees, hear from different acharyas. But these 4 verses are called the Chaturshloki. And today we are into the second Chaturshloki verse of Bhagavad Gita, which is 10.9, chapter 10 and verse number 9. So what a verse, what a beautiful verse. Krishna is saying, Machita Madgat Prana. If you look at the essence of the words, it is all about what does Krishna's devotees, what does devotees of Krishna do? That's essentially is the verse, essence of the verse. But within that essence, Krishna goes on to detail Machita Madgata Prana. That means the devotees who are my devotees, who are Krishna's devotees, where are their minds fully engaged? And then he goes on to say, Bodhayanta Parasparam. That means they associate among themselves and they preach among themselves. Parasparam. Parasparam means among themselves. Parasparam. You might have heard about this word in your own language. Parasparam means among themselves. They associate with themselves and they preach among themselves. Bodhayanta Parasparam. Kathayantaschamam Nityam. That means they talk about the glories of Krishna among themselves, about me, means Krishna. So Kathayanta means, Katha means they talk about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead among themselves. Nityam, that means always, perpetually, daily. And tusyanti cha ramanti cha. That means by doing all this, tusyanti, that means they become very pleased. They become very blissful. They get transcendental bliss. And Srila Prabhupada has taken this thing to a different level here. So let's talk about this beautiful words. Krishna coming from the lotus mouth of Purna Purushottam Krishna is what are the characteristics of the devotees? What do they do? So they constantly think about me, Krishna. And when you love somebody, like say, for example, a mother loves the kids. So mother will go to the neighboring house and speak about, not in a very puffed up way, but about the glories of the Lord, glories of the kid, as to, hey, he went to a different city at that point in time, he scored so and then he did so well in cricket or whatever. So anybody who loves, you basically glorify him and you talk about that person. And that is why bhakti and the day-to-day living of our life is no different. If you like somebody, bhakti is all about love. And when Krishna is saying the devotees the pure devotees of me, they always glorify me. And then there is another thing which is mentioned here, parasparam. Parasparam means association. So there, the importance of preaching in association of pure devotees is highlighted here. Bodhayanta parasparam, kathayantas chamam nityam. That means they talk nicely about me. They do not undergo the aspect of prajalpa, where they'll be talking about others. They don't indulge in any of that. They all talk about glories of me. And then by talking very beautifully about me, they derive a lot of
Krishna.
so this is the essence of this verse. But let's try to dissect a little bit when Srila Prabhupada goes on to talk about the fish. The fish, when he stays in water, he lives a very beautiful life. But once you take the fish out of the water, he or she shakes, and then they leave their life. It's because Krishna consciousness, because Krishna says aham bija pradapita. That means in our heart there is a soul, and the soul belongs to super soul. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. Jiber Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. That means our default setting is we are the servant of Krishna. Whether we agree or not, the default setting is right then and there. And when we start not accepting that hey, we argue that we do not belong to Krishna, because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, Dehinam so yatha dehi. That means this dehi, this body, is part of something. When you think about our body, that means when you say our body, that means the body belongs to something. The body belongs to the soul. And if the soul leaves the body is dead meat. We all know that. So we have to think about that this thing, when Yashodamai, for example, in Damodar Lila, used to think about Krishna as how to serve Krishna, Yashodamai used to always remember Krishna. Machita Madgatvata Prana. That is, always think about, what does Krishna do? What does Krishna like? What can I do to please Krishna? Machita Madgata Prana. Exactly what Yashodamai was doing. Likewise, if you see the Pandavas were very less in terms of the number of soldiers from their side, but they were constantly thinking about Krishna. When the Pandavas were incognito and they were burnt in the wax house, you might remember, they were always remembering Krishna. They were always remembering Krishna. And the Akshaya Patra pastime, which you all have heard about, Maharani Draupadi having a pot, and they had already had their meals, and Durvasha Muni comes with his disciples, and they were always remembering Krishna. At any point in time, when we dovetail our life with the remembrance of Krishna, Machita Madgata Prana, that means in the mind, then all these anarthas we talk about, this ahankar, this aspect of trying to be bossy over others, this greediness will go away, because you are constantly thinking about something which is not politically biased, not something which is economically biased, as Srila Prabhupada writes. And for that to happen, you have to be connected with a devotee. All of us have come to Krishna consciousness through someone. Srila Prabhupada has come to Krishna consciousness through his association with his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in one of the places in Calcutta. So that seed which Srila Prabhupada writes is impregnated into a devotee, goes on to become a creeper, and that creeper goes all the way to Golok Vrindavan. The creeper becomes so tall that it goes to Golok Vrindavan, and that goes onto the lotus feet of Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And that's how the love for Krishna consciousness and Krishna happens from internally through that seed, which is implanted in all of us in some through association. That's why devotees are often, devotee relationship is the topmost relationship in the world, because there is no expectation. Even in families, wherever whether it's a nuclear family or a joint family, there is mutual expectation, which is why that relationship is not the purest form of relationship. The purest form of relationship is the devotees. And that's why Krishna goes on to say that bodhayanta parasparam, they talk about, they preach about parasparam among themselves. And what do they talk about? They don't talk about mundane things. They don't talk about prajalpa. They don't talk about things which has happened to someone in trying to sort of pass news among. They talk about the glories of the Supreme Personality of God. That's the reason why, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, in our villages, there used to be Bhagavad Katha, there used to be Bhagavad Tungi. And at that time, there used to be no quarrel among the villagers. But as more and more modern times came, and more and more TV came, TV serial came, the Bhagavad Tungi or Bhagavad group, which used to happen, which used to prevent quarreling, because everybody were engaged. Machita Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam, everybody were engaged in speaking glories about the Supreme. That's the reason why they had no time in doing quarrel among themselves. And gradually, as modernization came in, people became victim, and they felt the importance of the so-called TV, or which is often called the idiot box. And then this aspect of Machita Madgata Prana left. And so this is one of the most powerful verses of Bhagavad Gita, where, as you can see, the first line talks about Machita. That means it's the mind which is getting involved. And that mind is an internal thing. Bodhayanta Parasparam, preaching. Kathayantascha, talking. And then feeling blissful or feeling satisfied or enjoy transcendental bliss. Ramanticha, Tushyanticha, Ramanticha. These are all external things. So the first thing is the internal thing of Machita Madgata Prana, which is the internal manifestation of thinking about Krishna, where you take to Krishna consciousness by mind. But then the next three things, Bodhayantas, where you're preaching, that is external. Kathayantascha, talking, that is external. And the feeling blissful, that is external. So as you can see, this is a practical illustration of Krishna consciousness. This verse, there is so much of power in this verse that the first line is external. The first line is internal, and the next 3 lines are external. These are all practical implementation of bhakti in our life. The first being theoretically thinking about something. Whenever you want to go for grocery, right? You first think, where will I go? I'll get this from, ShopRite or Walmart or some other place. And the second thing, I'll get it from some other place. So you think about it and then you execute that thought into action. So here, Krishna very beautifully explaining that my devotees, what do? They engage their mind, and after engaging the mind, then the next 3 lines talks about preaching, talking, and then enjoying, because the human being is a pleasure-seeking person. We try to seek pleasure everywhere we go, and that's the reason why we need a medium to engage ourselves, and we have to dovetail this in the loving exchange with the Supreme. Because when you think about the loving exchange with Supreme, what do you think? This beautiful world, the beautiful universe, cosmic creation is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This beautiful mountain, rivers, and all that is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But so he has created this entire universe. But when it comes to reciprocation, when it comes to giving the tax back, in the event of, if you're in certain countries, you end up using the municipality, you end up giving tax. But here, the God has created this beautiful world. We do not even think about loving him. Forget about giving tax or anything. So if we end up loving him, then we talk about him, we preach about him. This forum where every Saturday we meet, we talk about him, we glorify him, and that is a quality of a devotee, aligning with this 10.9, which is so pure in that sense. So as you can see, when your mind is used, it's your emotion which is really playing into it. And then you have, when you like something in your mind, you express it. You express it by telling some good things in terms of glorifying the Lord, or putting some words about the qualities of Lord. And then it turns to trying to get some nice bhoga for the Lord. Then you basically turn that expression into action. So your mind, body, and soul is totally committed to the interaction with the Supreme. So that's the reason why devotees are so powerful, that they are often not perturbed by so many things happening around you. That's why devotees are very, very powerful individuals, because they know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in various different Bhagavad Gita verses, Krishna says how he comes to protect his devotees. So when your body, mind, and soul is used for the pleasure or propagating about, or preaching about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it becomes very blissful. So this aspect of feeling connected to the Supreme, as it is mentioned, parasparam, it has to be done in a sangha, like a satsang, what we're doing right now, or Bhakti Vriksha, which we call this forum. And in this Bhakti Vriksha, what we do is we let the seed of bhakti go up, and it becomes so tall that it basically escapes this entire universe and goes onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when it touches the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord is pleased. That's the reason why the seed has to be sown through a devotee. And unless now is the summertime, you may be planting trees in your backyard, but every time you end up doing, it starts with a seed. So this seed of bhakti has to be implanted, so that we engage parasparam, engage in glorifying the Lord, preaching the Lord, talking about the Lord, hearing about the Lord. And then when we do that, we feel blissful. Why we feel blissful, we will discuss a little bit. So whenever your kid was born, the first birthday, was very nice. You do it in a big way. By the time the second birthday comes, you do it a bit less. By the time the third birthday comes, you pretty much lose interest. But the appearance day of the Lord Krishna during Janmashtami, Jagannath during Snanyatra, Gaur Purnima, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance comes. But every time we have the same enthusiasm with which we celebrate. It never dwindles, it never comes down, because you're basically celebrating the birthday or the appearance day of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the difference, because we are so material that by first birthday or second birthday, we are tired. But when it is Ram Navami or Janmashtami or Snan Yatra or Gaur Purnima, and tomorrow and today in many parts of the world is the appearance day of Nrsimhadev, we do it with fasting, we do it with so much of enthusiasm that we never lose interest, because it is the appearance day of the divine, which is why every year we do it in a big way. It doesn't really reduces our thought process, or it never ever comes down in our enthusiasm, because whenever Lord appearance day is coming, the Lord's appearance day is so sublime that Ramanticha, that means we get so much bliss by celebrating the birthday or the appearance day of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And whenever we talk about the glories of the Lord, Sevan Mukhe Hi Jivhadav, from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami writes, and also this verse is repeated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 17.136. Sevan Mukhe Hi Jivhadav. That means by talking about the glories of the Lord through the tongue, we get so much of pleasure that it is also a seva. That means glorifying the Lord to others, or hearing the glorification of the Lord when heard from others, or that hearing and speaking the glories of the Lord is so much that you will see devotees who are very dear to Krishna in their mind, they will be talking about the same pastime which happens every year during the appearance day, or they will feel as if there is so much of love coming out of them, either in the form of tears coming out of their eyes, and the kind of feeling they have all the time. And isn't that amazing that this material relationship may end up giving you some hardship, but the supreme sublime relationship with the Supreme is so enthusiastically done. Krishna mentions Ramanticha, devotees get a lot of happiness. So this essence of the verse is, what does devotees do? The devotees, they preach about the Lord, they talk about the Lord, and just by preaching and talking about the Lord, they become so blissful, because the connection with the Supreme is through our hearts, and it is not temporary. The relationship with your parents or your brothers and sisters are what, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. But the relationship with the Supreme is transcendental. It transcends between, this lifetime. That's the reason why anytime there is an appearance day of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, every year is a very enthusiastic year to celebrate. So what do devotees do? So when Prahlada Maharaj, who was born not born in a Brahminical family, he was born from a Rakshasa family. As you can see, beautiful Prahlada Maharaj is here. Prahlada Maharaj was always speaking about the glories of the Supreme. But Hiranyakashipu, the father, was full of envy. He was not able to accept the glories of the Supreme. And he was always angered by the preaching of his son, who was a little boy. So this envy, pride, and our anger, see all the anarthas of these, all the anarthas, these three anarthas which Hiranyakashipu was embodying. Hiranyakashipu was embodying, but we all have that Hiranyakashipu tendency among ourselves. The anger in us, the envy in us, our lack of enthusiasm in surrendering to the Supreme is still here with us. So Hiranyakashipu may have been cleansed by Nrsingadev, but Hiranyakashipu's tendency, or so we are filled with Hiranyakashipu tendencies in this world. So what do devotees do, like Prahlada Maharaj? So when Nrsingadev was taking out the intestine of, when Nrsingadev was taking out the intestine of his father, Hiranyakashipu, Prahlada Maharaj is begging for mercy. So why don't we have mercy? Why don't you have the ability to feel merciful to somebody? Why we do not have the ability to recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender to Him? Why do we have envy? Exactly like when Prahlada Maharaj was glorifying the Supreme Vishnu in this example, Hiranyakashipu was feeling very envious. And Hiranyakashipu, as you know, Hiranya, that means he was filled with gold. Hiranya means gold. His body was filled with gold. Hiranya. We have the greed to acquire as much property, as much gold, or as much economic benefits. Hiranyakashipu has gone, but he has left many Hiranyakashipus in this entire world who are greedy, who are envy, who are not willing to love the Supreme Personality. When we start loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we'll recognize that every other person who are around us as Aham Bija Pradapita. That means if the Supreme Father is Krishna, Krishna goes on to say in Bhagavad Gita that Aham Bija Pradapita, he is the seed-giving father of everyone. Then you see everyone else as the son of God, and you are related through that. Then because of that relationship, you will start loving each other. You'll start loving each other not by virtue of different things such as envy or greediness and comparison. You'll basically start having equating mentality in our life, and you start recognizing each other through their actions, not through a prior concussion in our mind about the envy, which basically prevents us from liking everybody. So tomorrow is the appearance day of Nrsingadev. Nrsingadev, as you know, he did not come in the daytime. He did not come in the nighttime. He came right in the middle. He did not come from a land or water. He came from a pillar. So all the possibilities Hiranyakashipu asked so that he will escape death. So Lord can come from anywhere to protect his devotees. And we should be very confident that if we have the kind of surrenderness like Prahlada Maharaj, Lord is going to protect us. So there is no denying the fact that Lord is there, and only if you have the mentality to see Lord, you will have the confidence that Lord is going to protect you. So there is this wonderful episode which happened in Bhakti Vedanta Hospital in Bombay, which Gaurang Prabhu was once mentioning, that there's a big criminal who comes he comes under very tremendous wounds, and he was about to be operated by a doctor, and but the doctor was praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this criminal saw him and said, "Who are you praying?" And he says, "I'm praying to the Supreme Doctor who has done big surgeries of his, and by doing big surgeries like intestine surgeries, he has liberated anybody who has been done surgery by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether it is Putana or whether it is Hiranyakashipu, they've all been liberated." And so to that doctor, Supreme Doctor, I am basically praying so that, and so the criminal says, "Okay, you pray for me so that I get liberated," but he doesn't understand the aspect of liberation, but that's okay. But his ability to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead was really showing up. So we can go on and on. It's 40 minutes into the class. We'd like to open up for some discussion, question or comments, because this is a beautiful verse we can dwell on and on, but we'd like to end here meditating on the glories of Nrsingadev as to having faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he can come from anywhere, anytime to protect his devotees. So with that, I would like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Any question, comments, please open up and we'll discuss a little bit. And we would celebrate the big event here in Vijayasena Temple, Nrsingadev's, with a big yagya. So please open up, unmute yourself and ask any question you may have, or comments or reflections about this verse. Or if you want to add something, please add. Or was the discussion not understandable, or it's fully understood? So Prabhuji or Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask any question you may have about this beautiful verse, Machita Madgata Prana. Hare Krishna Prabhu, you want to say something? We can hear you.
Hare
We can
Krishna,
see
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Narendra Prabhu, you want to say something? Dr. Narendra Prabhu, you want to say something? We can hear you, but we can see you, but we can't hear you if you want to say something. If you can unmute, I think I see you are unmuted, but if you want to say something, we would like to hear from you. Okay. And anyone else? We have some new members. The numbers are not shown here. If they want to say something or introduce themselves, you would like to hear from you as well. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think no one has any question or comments, but I would like to hear from others if they want. Rohit Prabhu is there.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Anuradha Mataji, and this is from my mom's phone. So she is also initiated devotee, so she wanted to listen to your class. So that's why she logged in through her phone as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much
Hare
for.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Nicely, very nice class, Prabhu. Wonderful class. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Any comments, Rohit Prabhu or Ram, Ashish Karuna, Jagannath Prabhu, Tralloke Prabhu, Narendra Prabhu? Govil Mataji, Shanta Mataji.
Very nice and nicely you described, and such a way you described that wonderful class and session today, Prabhu. But today I have not much question, Prabhu, because I listening, but not that type of question I have, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Any other comments? If there are no comments, we will close today's Bhakti Vriksha. Tomorrow we have a lot of program. We have Nrsimha Yajna. There are a lot of activities planned. Tomorrow we have a big feast after the Yajna in our temple in ISKCON Plainfield. If you want to share something, please unmute and share.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt, Prabhuji. My mother wants to do some kind of service tomorrow for Nrsimhadev's birthday. So how does, I mean, I would like to know the different services that outsiders are allowed. So
Yes, Mataji, if you want to serve in any way, we have cooking starting from 1 p.m. onwards in the temple. Mataji can come. Otherwise, in the evening, if Mataji wants to attend the yajna, it starts at the program starts at 4:30 p.m. But there is yajna, so Mataji can. We'll be chanting the Nrsimha Kavacha Yajna mantra for the entire 1 hour. So Mataji can come and be part of it. There is a wonderful drama as well, beautiful drama enacted by our Krishna kids. So Mataji can come. And also if Mataji wants to help in cooking, if Mataji can spend some time between 4 p.m., you can go to the devotee kitchen and you can help there.
oh, okay, sure, Prabhuji. Yeah, I will discuss with her, and accordingly we will schedule either 1 or 4 p.m. like how you said. So whichever time slot she's picking, I'll drop her accordingly.
Definitely.
Hare Krishna,
Narendra
Prabhuji.
Prabhu, you have raised your hand. Can you speak now? We can hear you. Narendra Prabhu, you have raised your hand. Can you speak? If you want to speak anything, if you want to reflect on anything. Narendra Prabhu, can you hear me? Professor S.K. Narendra Prabhu, we can hear you. You have raised your hand. You want to say something? Please go ahead and speak, Prabhu. I don't know if I have to unmute, but let me see. You can speak because you are not showing as muted. You can unmute, you can speak. Narendra Prabhu, you have raised your hand. You want to say something? Prabhuji, you want to say something? Narendra Prabhu? I think it was probably by mistake. Okay, we'll end here if there is no other question or comments. So we'll offer prayers at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha kalpataru kripa sindhu vaivasya patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Nrsimhadeva Kiran ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna.